A legendary anime that won the hearts of all fans of comedy and incredibly motivating with a beautiful drawing of titles. Many guessed that it would be about an anime called One Punch Man. Therefore, I will ask everyone to watch the video to the end, subscribe to the channel, and write in the comments whether you like this chic anime. Enjoy your viewing, everyone. The anime begins with the fact that the city is attacked by some humanoid, and Saitama, seeing all this on TV, rushes to the rescue. Arriving at the scene, he saves the girl from a humanoid. The monster claims that it was spawned by the earth due to the fact that people were heavily polluted by the environment, and therefore he came to destroy them. While he is telling all this, Saitama, with a trademark face, destroys him with one blow, which is why he is very upset. Then we are shown the backstory of the protagonist. In his youth, Saitama met a villain, a crabman who once ate a lot of crabs and eventually became like them himself. The villain did not touch him and went to look for the boy, who painted him with an indelible marker while he slept. On his way home, Saitama met the boy, after which he was attacked by a crab. At this point, Saitama recalls that as a child he dreamed of becoming a hero, not an office worker. Saitama takes the will into a fist and fights the crab, and of course defeats it. Then 3 years passed, Saitama trained a lot and became bald. But in the end, he gained incredible strength and became a hero. While Saitama was standing in the store and shopping, the city was attacked by a colossal titan. This monster became so because he dreamed of gaining tremendous strength. He trained a lot, and to help him, his brother made a special potion for him. While the giant was crushing the city, Saitama climbed on his shoulder and asked what it was like to be the strongest. The Titan's brother tells him to get rid of that guy on his shoulder, but he didn't take into account the fact that the Titan is not only colossally strong, but also colossally blunt. And so he accidentally crushed his brother on the next shoulder. Upon discovering this, the giant becomes angry and in a rage tries to kill Saitama. But our hero is not so simple. He makes a super jump and defeats the Titan with one blow, stating that having incredible strength is very boring. After the fight, Saitama reflects on how bored he is due to the fact that he finishes all the fights with one blow. After thinking, he goes to bed. But suddenly wakes up due to the fact that the city is attacked by an army of huge moles. Saitama fights them, and finally feels the joy of battle. The fight was incredible. He defeats all moles and is already preparing to fight their king. But suddenly the alarm clock rings. Unfortunately, all this turns out to be just a dream. This concludes the first series. The second episode begins with the news announcing the invasion of dangerous mosquitoes that suck the blood out of people until people die. Next, we see Saitama watering a cactus, but he is hindered by a mosquito and for some reason he cannot kill it. Then we see how the mosquitoes eat the marauder alive and give all the blood drunk to the queen. All this is noticed by the cyborg and tries to stop the queen. Then Saitama runs up with a mosquito spray. The cyborg mistakes him for a civilian and asks him to hide and burns all the mosquitoes alive. And with them the clothes of the bald. Next, the mosquito queen almost tears the cyborg apart, but there was Saitama nearby, who slammed it with one blow. The next day, the cyborg comes to Saitama's house and we learn that his name is Genos. He asks Saitama to take him as an apprentice. Saitama asks him why he needs all this, after which Genos begins to tell his backstory. But Saitama interrupts him and tells him to shut up and tell everything in 20 words or less. Next, we are shown how some scientist declares that he wants to catch Saitama and study his powers. Then we are brought back to the bald man's house. Genos records that a monster is approaching the city. A mantis flies into the apartment and Saitama destroyed it with one blow as always. At the bottom are two more monsters. Genos jumps down but sees that Saitama has already gotten rid of them. Suddenly, Saitama was dragged underground, and Genos is attacked by a gorilla cyborg. Genos fights him and Saitama, meanwhile, is attacked by the monster lion. Saitama dodges and then destroys it with a technique called a series of normal strikes. Genos, meanwhile, has already defeated the gorilla and learns from her information about who sent them. The monkey threatens that now the lion will come and defeat everyone. However, Saitama arrives with the eyes of a lion in his hands, and the monkey tells everything out of fear. This concludes the second series. The next episode begins with the backstory of a scientist who sent monsters to capture Saitama. He was so brilliant that he was able to regain his youth and then also clone himself. But suddenly Saitama cuts off the story and tells the monkey to tell him quickly. As a result, he surrenders the boss and Saitama and Genos go to the scientist's lair. Upon learning of this, he decides to unleash his strongest monster, Ashura Kabuto, against them. Bald with a cyborg penetrate the building and the monster is already rushing at them. He stuck Genos in the wall and invites Saitama to fight in the test room. But as soon as they enter the hall, Genos bursts in and starts attacking. Unfortunately, the attempt was unsuccessful and the monster with a slight movement of the hand fights off Genos. Saitama, seeing all this, already begins to think that finally there is a worthy opponent who will not die with one blow. Meanwhile, the scientist crawls to the test room to see the fight live. The monster tries to attack, but at the sight of one glance Saitama immediately jumps away from him. The scientist is shocked by this, and Kabuto asks Saitama where he has such power out of fear. And here it is the fateful moment when everyone listens to every word of Saitama. The secret of his incredible strength lies in the hellish training, which not everyone can master. His secret technique is that you need every day that push-ups, 100 squats, 100 times to pump the press and run 10 kilometers. Well, follow a small diet and also do not use air conditioning. From such colossal loads, Saitama gained his strength, but the price for it was too great, he became bald. Unfortunately, no one believes Saitama and Kabuto only gets angry about it and turns into his strongest form. The monster declares that in this form he cannot be stopped for a whole week, and once he destroys Saitama, he will go to destroy everything in his path until next Saturday. From these words, Saitama panics, because if the monster destroys everything until next Saturday, it means that today is also Saturday, which means that Saitama made a terrible mistake, he missed the sale in the supermarket. From such news, he gets upset and takes out the monster with one blow. But Genos reassures the teacher and says that if you hurry up, they are quite good for the sale. Saitama wake up from such happy news and they run together to the store, leaving the scientist standing in shock. This concludes the third series. The fourth episode begins with a gang of bald men demanding that they be provided for free by the state. True, no one listens to them and therefore they decide to destroy the building of the richest man in the city. Then we are shown another hero whose name is a disenfranchised writer. Next, we are taken to Saitama's house, where he sees news of these bald men on TV. He decides to stop them, because they disgrace all the bald and thereby spoil his reputation as a hero. After that, we are transferred back to the city and we see the gang crushing the city. Comes to the aid of local residents a disenfranchised writer. But unfortunately, as soon as he gets into a fight, I defeat him with one blow. Next, we are transferred to the house of an oligarch who is going to be attacked by bald people. Rich hires the fastest mercenary, Supersonic Sonic. The mercenary meets them in the woods and offers to retreat, but the gang decides to attack him and Sonic gets rid of everyone except the main one. The ringleader then throws stones at him but ends up getting a kunai in the back of his head. Bald falls and as soon as Sonic turns away, he runs away. Lucky that the skull is strong, but to his misfortune he stumbles upon Saitama. One Punch Man recognizes him and breaks his costume with one punch. The villain escapes and then Sonic stumbles upon Saitama. He mistakes him for one of the gang and attacks him. However, Saitama accidentally puts his fist under his eggs. From such humiliation, the mercenary runs away saying at the end that he saw in Saitama a worthy opponent, and now he will train hard to defeat him. Coming home, Saitama falls into depression due to the fact that during the fight Sonic did not recognize him, which means that all his heroics were in vain and no one knows the bald at all. Genos explains to him that in order for your heroism to be noticed, you must enroll in the Heroes Association. And since Saitama was not an official hero, no one knows about him. Bald decides to enroll there with Genos. The fifth episode begins with the Character Association deciding to step up scrutiny. Saitama and Genos go through this test. The passing score is 70. Genos scores 100 points and is assigned to the S class, the highest possible, and Saitama's in C is the lowest class because, unlike Genos, the bald man scored 71 points. After the test, they listen to a brief seminar on how to be a hero, but Saitama does not care about it and so on the way home, the hero of Class A, who explained everything, attacks Saitama, but naturally loses the fight. The next day, Saitama and Genos conduct a training session in which the bald man makes it clear to Genos that he is weak. After training, they go to eat noodles in a cafe. Genos is called for a conversation by a hero who occupies the first place in the A class. After the conversation, Saitama sees that the heroes of the S class are treated much better than the lower ones. The next day, One Punch Man finds out that all the heroes of Class C need to complete at least 1 feat per week, otherwise they will simply be excluded from the association. Running all day around the city of Saitama does not find any accidents and goes home. But the next day, Saitama stumbles upon the Supersonic Sonic. The mercenary tries to attack the bald man, but all this is seen by the hero of the C-class Tiger Mask and mistakes him for a villain. Sonic cuts him down with explosive shuriken so that he does not interfere with him and Saitama to fight, and then begins to provoke him, frightening the civilians. Saitama does not like this and he cuts down Sonic, due to which he fulfills his weekly norm. Next, the city is attacked by a monster of seaweed. He defeats two Class A heroes, but to his misfortune stumbles upon Saitama, who makes soup out of him. Next, Genos comes to the Association of Heroes and meets a hero nicknamed the Silver Fong. He is in third place in the S-Class and his real name is Bang. Class S heroes are usually summoned only in very urgent cases, and this time they are summoned to destroy a meteorite approaching the city. Grandfather says that the city can no longer be saved, but Genos is not satisfied with this situation and he is in a hurry to save the city. Along the way, he stumbles upon an S-Class hero named Silver Knight, or rather his robot, whom he sent to test his weapon. Unfortunately, it is not possible to destroy the meteorite and the robot flies away. Genos decides to invest all his energy to destroy the meteorite. He takes the generator from body to hand and makes a powerful shot. But unfortunately, even that doesn't help. And at the decisive moment, Saitama appears and destroys the meteorite with one blow. True, fragments of the meteorite still touch the city, but everyone remained alive. And thanks to this, Saitama was promoted to 5th place in the C-Class. 3 days later, sitting in front of the TV, Genos explains to Saitama the system of danger levels. The wolf level is a threat to several people, the tiger level is a threat to a large number of people, the demonic level is a threat to an entire city, the dragon level is a threat to several cities, the divine level is a threat to all of humanity. After listening to Genos, Saitama goes for a walk. There he meets brothers with the nicknames Tiger T-shirt and Black Hole T-shirt. They envy Saitama for so quickly climbing to 5th place and start slandering him and accusing him of being a fraud by making the bald man look like a bad person. Locals join in and shout for Saitama to leave. The brothers then sneakily attack Saitama, but he defeats them with a slight movement of his hand. One of the brothers is remorseful, but Saitama still decides to proudly accept the wrath of the locals, and then declares that he is engaged in heroism not for their approval, but because he himself wants to, and if they want to blame him, he does not care. Genos, seeing all this, calls the bald man home and on the way tells him that even if everyone turns away from him, he will always remain by his side. Next, the city is attacked by sea monsters. The A-Class hero Stinger deals with them, but the Sea King comes and defeats him. Then the hero of a class Max Lightning comes to the fight, but unfortunately also suffers a defeat. To the aid of Max comes the hero of the S-Class Homogomo, who escaped from prison with Sonic. Damagomo fights the Sea King, but also loses and the Sea King attacks Sonic. But despite his strength, he can't hit it because it's very fast. Sonic teases the Sea King, but unfortunately it starts to rain and the monster gets bigger and stronger. He grabs it, but Sonic manages to escape. The Sea King, meanwhile, goes to the refuge of people, but the heroes, who also evacuated, decide to fight back. Saitama and the disenfranchised rider, meanwhile, go to the rescue together. Sonic runs past them, and Saitama decides to check what it was and tells the disenfranchised rider to ride without him. We are again taken to the shelter and we see that the Sea King has already defeated all the heroes, but fortunately Genos has already arrived to help and fights the sea monster and tells the people to flee. During the battle, the girl shouts words of support to Genos. This angers the Sea King and he spits acid at her. Genos covers the girl with his body, because of which he loses the fight. The monster is preparing to kill Genos, but a disenfranchised rider comes to the rescue. The king punches him, but he still gets up. His heroism inspires people so much that they find hope and begin to shout words of support to him. The hero is inspired by this, but unfortunately falls again. Fortunately, Saitama has come to the rescue. He sees how Genos and the disenfranchised rider have suffered and then, after a short monologue, again destroys the enemy with one blow. The next day, Saitama and Genos read letters from fans. Genos is written by fans and Saitama by haters. But the bald one reacts very well. Then we are shown a flashback after the battle with the sea monster, where Saitama is again shouted indignantly. But he, as a noble hero, again takes the blame on himself and, in order not to devalue the work of other heroes, says that he simply finished off the King of the Seas. After the flashback, Saitama finds a single letter of thanks from the disenfranchised rider. Then Saitama is called to the association and assigned to him the first place in the C class and offered to rise to the B class. In order not to strain every week, Saitama agrees. On the way home, Saitama stops by for a meal, where he meets a disenfranchised rider who treats One Punch Man in gratitude for the rescue. End of the 9th series. The next episode begins with Bang trying to recruit Saitama and Genos, but suddenly the association summons all the heroes of the S-Class and announces the news that the great soothsayer has died. But before her death, she managed to warn that humanity was in danger of the divine level in the next 6 months. Immediately after the announcement, the city is attacked by aliens. While everyone is in a panic, Saitama sneaks onto the ship and begins to crush it. The S-Class ossified heroes meanwhile battle a lot of head monsters. After a long fight, they discover that his weak spot is the pearls in his heads, and as soon as they destroy them, the monster dies. The alien ship then begins a bombardment, but Tatsumaki uses his telekinesis to send the missiles back. On the ship, Saitama searches for the main one and stumbles upon an octopus that wields telekinesis. He tries to get rid of the bald man, but Saitama throws a stone in his head and he dies. Saitama then infiltrates the room of the main alien Boros. It turns out that he, like Saitama, has been looking for a worthy opponent for a long time. That is why he traveled to different planets and destroyed them. After listening to this nonsense, Saitama strikes Boros, thereby breaking his armor that held back his strength. And now the legendary fight of Saitama against Boros begins. The alien strikes blow after blow and sends Saitama to the moon, but he returns with a super jump. Saitama then strikes back at Boros, but he survives. Boros goes on the attack, but Saitama uses a series of regular punches and Boros breaks to pieces. But he gathers again and launches his strongest attack on Saitama. The bald man rejoices in this and uses his strongest technique in response. Boros is defeated and Saitama finally enjoys the fight. After the battle, a Class A hero arrives on the scene and begins to humiliate the S-Class heroes. Saitama then emerges from the ruins of the ship and tells Genos that he has defeated the boss. But Tatsumaki starts screaming at him. After the credits, the city is attacked by a giant monster, which Saitama destroys with one blow as always and gets upset again. But to cheer him up, you only need to subscribe to the channel, put a like and write in the comments, would you like to have a friend like Saitama? This is the end of the first season of the anime One Punch Man. Thank you to everyone who watched this video to the end. See you next time.